So I think we keep imagining, and I think it's fair to do so, that the Padres' injuries to Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove are going to be a problem going forward, that there's not enough pitching depth to keep the Padres going until they get those guys back. So far, it hasn't. I mean, one trip through the rotation without those guys, and Randy Vasquez did a decent job in a game the Padres won, and then Adam Mazur did an excellent job last night in a game the Padres lost. But it hasn't been the lack of starting pitching that is hurting the Padres lately. Now, that could change at any time, and because of that, it was reported yesterday in The Athletic that the Padres were in active discussions trying to acquire more pitching, specifically AJ Preller talking again to the Chicago White Sox after getting Dylan Cease from them right before the start of the season about Garrett Crochet, who's been their breakout number one pitcher so far this season. They converted him from a reliever, gets a ton of strikeouts, leads the American League with 93 strikeouts, has been especially good lately with, I think, just 3 earned runs allowed in his last 5 starts. And he's a lefty, which it complements what the Padres don't have, which is a very righty-heavy starting rotation that you could add to the pitching depth. Of course, the downside here is that the White Sox are not particularly motivated to trade him at the moment. They have 2 years plus of control left on Crochet, and they'd be asking for a quite large return in terms of prospects to make that deal right now. Now, he's not Dylan Cease.
I was just going to say, the precedent's been set, I think, earlier this year. You traded Drew Thorpe, Samuel Zavala, Jairo Iriarte, and Steven Wilson.
Yes.
It's going to cost more or less for Crochet?
I mean, it should cost less. This guy does not have the credentials of Dylan Cease.
Got 1 more year of control.
He has 1 more year of control. He's cheaper. He's only making the minimum, essentially, this year, $800,000. But you're also just gambling that a guy who got off to a hot start is going to keep doing that. I think it might be a little bit less. But the problem for the Padres is that they traded the large, they kept the top prospects for the most part in Salas and DeVries and Lesko and Snelling. But then that next level, that kind of mid-level, they've traded most of them. So they don't have any more of those guys necessarily that are going to be interesting to the White Sox in a deal. They're going to have to dip into their top guys to make any deal happen at this point. And I just don't know that Garrett Crochet is worth top prospects at this point, or that Garrett Crochet even makes a huge difference. He could have pitched last night and gone 6 innings and given up 1 run and 2 hits. Yeah. And guess what? Padres still lose that game because pitching wasn't the problem for the Padres last night. So is it worth it if you're the Padres to go out and spend more of your now dwindling prospect capital to add another arm to your starting rotation?
What a difference a few days makes. My thoughts on this were different 2 days ago, 3 days ago, even. I mean, it's such a weird. Now, I know we're going to need starting pitching, but again, sitting here at 500, albeit in a wild card, firmly in a wild card spot in a very average NL this year, Ben. My gut tells me you do want to compete, yes? Like we all do, all Padres fans want to compete. And I guess the phrase that people hate to hear is go for it. But I don't see you really having a choice other than to go for it. Is this move in and of itself the smartest move? Probably not. Do you need more help than just one frontline starter in Garrett Crochet? Yes, you do. And I think it's pretty evident that you need help in the bullpen. You might need another catcher. You definitely need another bat, and you need another starting pitcher. So if I got to give up my top prospects, I want more than Garrett Crochet back. Does that make sense to you? Like we need to get out of the thought that AJ Preller is not going to go for it. And again, I hate another calendar year goes by. Manny gets a year older. Xander's already hurt, but he gets a year older. Toddy gets a year older. Jake gets a year older. You gets a year older. Joe gets a year older. Here we go. You're pot committed to trying to compete every year. So my answer is compete. Go out and try to do what you can do to improve the ball club, as he always does. I'm not worried. the people that are wringing their hands over, oh God, how do we let go of Lesko? He's got the next Lesko in his mind already. He's got the next Snelling in his mind. He's got the next Salas in his mind. Not that I want to trade Salas. You know what I'm saying? I've never been worried about the restocking and the hype that goes behind AJ Preller's prospects, because it's usually always there.
I guess my question, certainly if you traded for Crochet, maybe you get Kopech too. That helps the bullpen. If you get healthy, you could push Michael King back to the bullpen, where he's had, he was very successful with the Yankees last year. He's certainly done nothing to lose his spot in the starting rotation either, but you could lengthen your bullpen and help your starting rotation. For me, the question is, yes, you want to make the playoffs. Right now, the Padres, with the roster would have made the playoffs at this point. Does Garrett Crochet even get a start in the playoffs if you get there? I mean, if you have, because you're probably going with a 4-man rotation. Does he even get there beyond?
What are you talking about? Why wouldn't he?
Dylan Cease. I mean, if you Darvish and Joe Musgrove are healthy,
that's the big if, right?
I mean, they come back. If they don't, then yes, you definitely have to consider doing this. And maybe part of the equation is not knowing how serious, especially Joe's injury, is really considered. Inside the training room, do they feel like he's going to come back and be fine, or are they pretty worried now that they're not going to have a healthy Joe Musgrove for the second half of the season and a potential playoff run? If you're not, then you definitely you need another arm at some point, because even if you sneak into the playoffs, if you're then relying on a Randy Vasquez to make a start or an Adam Mazur to make a start in a playoff game, that's not a great strategy going forward. I'd rather have someone like Garrett Crochet. But I don't want to spend a ton of prospects on Garrett Crochet if he's not going to be a difference maker for the Padres this season.
Well, I mean, you can say that about anybody that you acquire. You don't want to spend a ton to get a guy that may not
like
be
Dylan Cease was a difference maker already, and Luis Ariz has been a difference maker already.
Yeah, I mean, and Crochet's he's had some arm problems in the past, but seems to be pretty healthy and has figured out a lot on a really bad team. But again, I mean, the names that I saw bandied about yesterday, I don't really want to trade Ethan Salas for Garrett Crochet.
No.
I don't want to trade Leonidas DeBreeze for Crochet. But again, I do feel that AJ Preller's strength is restocking the farm, and you can't tell me that he doesn't do that. I've seen it. We've all seen him do it over and over and over and over. So I guess play to your strengths if you're a GM, right? That's all we can ask for. Play to your strengths.
If this trade doesn't work out, is AJ Preller even the one restocking the farm, though?
That's a good point.
Going forward.
It's a very, very good point. And I don't know the answer to that. None of us do. But I look at this as a team right now that's sitting at 500, certainly have not been playing their best baseball the last 3 games. But they have holes. They're undeniable holes. Undeniable on this team. So as a GM, your job is to address that and fix those holes. I don't get the sense, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't get the sense that he's in job-saving mode, because I feel like if he was in job-saving mode, a lot of these guys would already be in other organizations. I feel that way. What I do know for a fact is he doesn't have an unlimited budget to play with, so he's going to have to get creative. I said it yesterday. We need our GM to do the best GMing of his career. And again, this year, honestly, with even the holes that we have, so far so good. I mean, Luis Campusano started out this season really, really well, putting together really quality ABs. Was mentioned daily for his framing ability, his ability to steal strikes. All that's gone. It's gone. It's out the window. He's lost right now, and
he's a liability.
He's a liability
behind the plate and at the plate right now.
Legitimately cost Matsui a couple of strikes last night with nothing other than just being lazy after it, just going after it in a lazy fashion. So yeah, address those needs, because that's your job as a GM. You can't keep running the same guys out there. You've given these guys 62 games right now to prove themselves, and there's a lot of guys pointed in the wrong direction.
You can say, hey, maybe they can add a bat as well in this trade. Luis Robert, but
doesn't he make a ton of money?
Yeah, and do you really think the answer
Where's
to
he
all
play?
Is the answer to all the Padres' problems lying on the worst team in baseball
White Sox,
right now?
Right. Where does he play if you get Luis Robert? I mean, that's the thing, too. You got to work in the constraints of the money that you have or don't have to spend, and you have to work in the constraints of what you have on your roster position-wise. I mean, hey, man, I'd love it if you went out and traded for 2 premium bats, a premium catcher, a premium starting pitcher, and 3 bullpen arms. I'm all in. I'll give you every prospect I got. I don't care. But where do they play? Can you afford it? These are the big questions, which is why he needs to be extremely creative.
I'm glad AJ's looking into it, just because he is creative enough that maybe he will surprise us with a deal that doesn't look that bad from the Padres side, that addresses an issue or two with a price tag that we all find acceptable.
But the price tag that there's going to be people that hate it and people that love it, no matter who it is. Who's untouchable right now? Like untouchable.
I think Salas is pretty untouchable.
Okay.
I don't even think, I'm not sure ownership would authorize AJ Preller trading Ethan Salas at this point.
Okay. Why?
Well, he's the number 6 prospect in all of baseball.
Okay.
He's 18 years old.
Mm-hmm. But your window is...
And it's a premium position that you have struggled to fill for a long time.
So what makes you think that this guy is the right guy after struggling to fill that position
it's not
for
me.
a decade?
It's baseball thinks that he's the right guy.
Well, those lists have been proven wrong more than they've proven right.
True.
Especially ours. I mean... Look,
I don't think you can trade Salas for a converted reliever who's gotten off to a hot start.
Not just him.
Okay.
Not just
all
him.
right. We're discussing something bigger then.
Yeah, I mean we have if we were a starting pitcher away, sure, go ahead. Let's go, Snelling, whatever you got to do. One starting pitcher away, we're not, man. We're a catcher, potentially a first baseman. You got Donovan Solano playing first for your team right now, a designated hitter that can hit a left-handed pitcher. You know, there's all kinds of holes. 2 arms in the bullpen. I mean, there's plenty of holes